36 months. 36 months. That's how long my wife has been pregnant in her lifetime. Of course, not all at one time, because that would just be weird, but in the course of her life, my wife has spent 36 months of her life pregnant. 4 kids, 9 months at a time, 36 months. That's pretty easy math. You know how long an elephant is pregnant? With 1 kid. 22 months. 22 months. An elephant is pregnant with 1 offspring. Can you imagine? You know that if you plant a carrot seed, that in some places you can grow a carrot from a seed in as little as 8 weeks. And in other places it'll take 18 weeks to 24 weeks before a carrot seed becomes anything like a carrot. It all depends on the quality of the soil. But you know, when my wife was pregnant with all those kids, we would ask those questions like, will they grow up and be smart? Will they be strong like Arnold Schwarzenegger? Will they have vanishing hair like dads? Or beautiful hair like moms? Or hair like the Donald? Will they be intelligent? Will they have special needs? Will they be gorgeous? Will they be average? Will they be princes and princesses and kings and queens? Will it be a boy or will it be a girl? We asked all of those questions. Where will they go to college? What will they do for a career? Who will they marry? How many kids will they have? How many grandkids will we have? Will they live close to home or will we have to travel across the country to see them? All of these questions come up the minute mom is pregnant. The minute you know there's a seed in there to grow a baby, all of these things start coming to mind. But you know the one question we never asked? Will it be a cat? Are you going to have a hamster? Will a squirrel come out of there? No, we don't ask that question. Why? Because we know in this world that you only get the type of tree or plant or fruit that corresponds to the kind of seed you planted. If you plant a rabbit seed, 31 days from now, you're going to have a whole ton of rabbits. Imagine that. Plant rabbit seeds, 31 days later, you have a whole ton of rabbits. But if you plant carrot seeds, you don't get rabbits. And if you plant elephant seeds, grab a rocking chair. You're going to be here a while. 22 months to make a baby elephant. Well, what does all this have to do with you? Well, I want to put this idea to you. This is in Live a More Excellent Life. We are today on chapter 15, which means we only have a couple left to finish the book. In this particular video, we're talking about, chapter 14, Seeds of Intention. Seeds grow slowly, so be patient. One of the ideas around planting seeds is the notion that many people want the fruit in their life now. They want results now. They want to see the evidence of the things not yet seen now. They don't want to wait. They don't want to do the work necessary. You know, if a mom had a baby in her belly and treated it like we treat some of the seeds of hope that we have in our lives, like our education, like our career, like our health, if she treated that seed in her belly the same way, there would be no baby. We often back away from those ideas that we plant in the ground, the notions that we have that we want something to develop because it didn't bear fruit immediately. Because we planted the idea of, I want a new job, and nobody offered us a job. Well, it must not be meant to be. I'm not supposed to have a new job. I'll just be stuck where I am for the rest of my life. Many times we get frustrated because the seed that we've planted has a long, what we call germination period. It takes a long time to grow an elephant, to knit together the DNA of something that massive. It takes a long time to make a baby right. Premature babies struggle in life. A lot of them have illnesses and diseases and challenges with their body. Many of them, like my youngest one, was born way early. He was born, I believe it was 4.5 pounds when he came home. Yeah, he's bigger than me now. But he was 4.5 pounds when he came home. They were afraid that he wasn't going to grow anymore. Excuse me, not even 4.5. He was 4.5 pounds. 4 pounds, 5 ounces when he came home. He was way small, and he was a couple of weeks early. But he has developed fully now. What if we tried to rush that seed when mom got pregnant? We went, oh, we want the baby now. Let's get the baby out now. We want to have a baby now. We can't do that. It puts the life of the child at risk. But have we done the same thing in our education? The same thing in our future goals and dreams and visions that we have for life? Have we looked at those things and went, I want them now. I want them right now. And so by our demanding, by our passion to move forward right now, we kill the thing that we planted. We yank it out of the ground. I remember when I was just in 2nd or 3rd grade, maybe even 1st grade, one of the projects that we had was to take a piece of corn, like popcorn, like a kernel of corn, and plant it in a little styrofoam cup full of dirt in the classroom. And then everybody in the room put their name on theirs, and we put them all up in the window. And when they started to sprout, and you could see the corn coming up. Now, we lived in Iowa at the time. Iowa is made of corn, in case you didn't know that. No offense if you're from Iowa, but like everywhere you look is corn. So corn was really easy to grow, apparently, in Iowa. You could put a seed in a styrofoam cup with dirt and get corn. And so we planted it. My little corn shoot was 5 or 6 inches tall. I didn't tell anybody when I brought it home. I planted it right next to the steps so that no one would walk on it. I mean, nobody walks right against the steps. So I dug a little hole right next to the steps and I planted it. Probably the first time in my mother's life that I recall that she went around and pulled the weeds by hand all the way around the edge of the house and the steps. Yep, pulled my corn right out of the ground. It never got to become a corn stalk. It never got to sprout corn ears. It died when it was about this tall. She yanked it right out of the ground, roots and all. And then she looked at it and went, that doesn't look like a weed. And I went, no, it looks like my corn. It didn't live a long, healthy life. Have you done the same thing with seeds in your life, seeds that you've planted? Let me ask this question, though. Do you have seeds in your life that you've planted, bad habits? Bad habits like smoking, bad habits like the way you talk to people, bad habits like driving without a turn signal, bad habits like cutting people off in traffic, bad habits like saying you're going to do something and not doing it, bad habits like screaming at people for no reason or losing your temper or running off in a rage. See, all of these are things that are, believe it or not, seeds. They're seeds. And when you plant those seeds in your life, they are going to grow. If I drove by your house in the middle of the night with a handful of dandelion seeds and I threw them in your yard, do you want to guess what the gestation period is on a handful of dandelion seeds? About 48 hours. In 2 days, your whole yard is full of weeds. Yep, and you'll be able to see them. But I would be nuts if I came back a week later and said, hey, can I have some of those roses from your front yard? You'd be like, no, but you can come pick these weeds that you threw in my front yard. It happened to me. We used to live in a neighborhood up in North Fort Worth, far North Fort Worth. And the guy next door to us drove his truck into the backyard to pour a patio. And when he did, he kind of drove through our yard and it left a big indentation. And I gave him a hard time about it. So he came with some fill dirt that obviously he just scraped off the side of the road. And so all the St. Augustine grass that we had worked so hard to grow down the side of our house, between our two houses where our little shade tree was and all that stuff, he threw this random dirt in there. And it started a patch of weeds that very quickly overran all of the grass on that side of the yard. It was a disaster. But all it took was 2 or 3 shovel loads of random dirt full of random seeds that nobody intentionally planted there, but lazily planted there. The same thing happens in your life. When you pick up habits from other people, when you notice things that you think, oh, that was kind of funny or that was kind of cool, and you start repeating those actions or repeating those phrases, they begin to take root in your life like wild seeds. Now, sometimes wildflowers like the Texas bluebonnets are gorgeous, but nobody wants dandelions and nobody wants milkweed and no one wants thistle. But in Texas, you just got to look at those things and they grow. And then they multiply and they reproduce. And they love the Texas climate. You don't even have to water them. They're just fine to grow and spread and kill your grass, and you don't have to do anything to them. In fact, the less you do to them, the more they're going to thrive. Don't you wish you had seeds in your life that were productive, that were fruitful, that were like those thistles that could thrive in any environment? That's what we all really want, right? We want to know that when I put my hands to this work, it's just going to boom. Unfortunately, we want it to happen with everything, and it doesn't. It doesn't work that way. There are certain things in your life that when you plant them, you've got to be very, very patient. You've got to be very patient, like an elephant seed or an oak tree. You ever try to grow an oak tree? I remember when I was a kid, I wanted a tree to play on. I wanted a big tree to climb on. Right next to us, there was this little piece of property between us and the neighbor where Brian Barrett lived. And this little patch of grass that was between our houses was an easement that belonged to the guy who owned hundreds of acres behind our house. And in that easement, there were like 6 big trees. And I was always tempted to climb over the fence and play in those trees. Now, this easement didn't have anything on it but those trees, and it was just road access to his land. But it was right between our houses, and I had no trees in my yard except a giant cedar tree, and you can't climb those. And he had these big mesquite trees and a couple of other little oak trees in there, and I so wanted to climb up in there and build a fort, but I knew I'd get in trouble if I climbed over the fence. So I went to the lumber yard, and I said, I need a tree big enough to climb in. And the guy said, well, you have a couple $1,000s. I said, no, I want a tree to put in my yard that I can climb in next year. He said, well, you're going to have to spend a couple $1,000s to get a tree that big that's ready to be climbed in. And then you're going to have to dig a big hole in your front yard. And then you're going to have to plant that tree in your front yard. And then you're going to have to take good care of that tree and give it a while, a couple of years to really take root so it doesn't fall over and die. Then you'll have a tree to climb in. And I said, well, I'm already 15. How much longer before I can actually play in this tree? I mean, I'm going to outgrow the desire to play in this tree, and then I'm going to move away from home. How long before I can actually have the tree? He said, well, if you spend a few $1,000s, you could have one now. If you spend $75 over there and buy a tree in a bucket, you could take it home and plant it, and your grandkids could climb in it. But it's going to take a good 20 years to plant a tree. That's why they say, if you want a tree, the best time to plant it is 20 years ago. The second best time to plant it is right now. And I want you to think about that for a moment, because there are things in your life that you're looking at and you're going, I really want that to be gone, and I want to replace it with this. Habits, conversations, education levels, career opportunities, dreams, goals, passions, to write that book, to paint that Monet. Those are the kinds of things that don't start yesterday. They start today. If you wait till tomorrow, you may not have time for it to germinate. If you don't start at all, a seed unplanted will never grow. Some seeds take forever to grow. Some will never grow. The ones that never grow are the ones you never plant. If you don't get started on whatever that is down the road, it's not going to happen at all. Now, I want to bring into your vocabulary what I call the green Buick theory. If you've ever heard anything by Zig Ziglar, you've heard him teach this many, many times. It's a powerful, powerful truth about brain science. In brain science, we understand that we tend to notice what we've noticed before. Some call it heightened awareness. It's technically known as the reticular activating system, or the RAS. I challenge you to look up those words, reticular activating system. It's spelled just like it sounds. If you'll look that up in just about any mind sciences book, anything by Dr. Caroline Leaf, Dr. Amen, Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, Anthony Robbins, you're going to find that word, reticular activating system. We used to teach about it in the Dale Carnegie program all the time. I put the two together, the reticular activating system and the green Buick theory. The green Buick theory is really, really a simple way of understanding how the reticular activating system works on one aspect. Here's how that works. Think to yourself for a moment about the car that you currently drive. Whether you absolutely love the car or you absolutely despise the car, or you're thinking, I can't wait till I get the next one. But as you think about that car, remember the day that you got it. Remember how when you got it, it seemed a little unique, a little new to you. And then suddenly, at every red light, there's 10 of them. Everywhere you go, there's another one, and it's just like yours. Now, let me ask this. Do you think that when you bought your car, poof, hundreds of other ones appeared in the universe? Or do you think that because you become aware of that type of car, that color of car, that style of car, that body of car, that make of car, that they're more easily recognizable now. I'll give you an example. There's a car that my roommate had that I used to drive all the time because he loved to ride my motorcycle and I loved to drive his car. It was a little black two-door, looked like a grandma's car. It really did. But in the year that it was made, it was the fastest production car in 1987. Corvettes and Mustangs that outran all of them. That particular car had a couple of knockoff twins. There was another car made by GM as well that many people would mistake the two of them for each other. There was a drastic difference between them. One of them was a V8 that wasn't as fast. One of them was a V6 that had a turbo and it was very, very fast. Many people would mistake them for each other. There was also a car that was the knockoff of the V6 turbo called the T-Type. And many people, because it was the same car but a different version of it, couldn't tell them apart. And then there was also an upgrade. So here's the car I'm talking about. Guys, you'll be, if you're car enthusiasts, you know this car. Women, you couldn't care less. I understand that. The 1987 Buick Regal Grand National was a 3.8 liter V6 turbocharged. The particular one that my roommate had also had T-tops on it. Almost all of them I've ever seen had T-tops as well, but not every one of them. It was an upgrade model. There was also a step-up model called the GNX. The Grand National and the GNX. The GNX had a different intercooler, a larger turbo, and a better suspension package. That car sold in the 50,000 range in 1987. The Grand National was an average run-of-the-mill, off-the-showroom floor kind of car, but off the showroom floor it was turning 12 nines in the quarter mile, which is very impressive for a stock car, but for a street car, that's really impressive. Then there was the Buick Regal T-Type. Now here's the main difference. The Buick Regal Grand National was all black bumper to bumper. It had no chrome on it anywhere. It was all black except the wheels. The T-Types had color molding trim around the bumpers, and whatever color the car was, the trim was, but the bumpers were still chrome. So from a mile away, you could see the shape and the silhouette of that Buick Regal going down the road and go, look, it's a... And many people go, oh, it's a Grand National. I go, no, it's a T-Type. It has chrome bumpers. For me, the awareness that the chrome bumpers distinguished the two from each other was significant. The GNX from the Grand National was really hard to tell apart because they looked so much alike until you saw that little logo on the side. But the Monte Carlo made by Chevy in the same year, the people who mistook those didn't know either car. Because if you recognized either one of those two cars, if you ever saw them side by side, they were so very different. But we made a lot of money racing people who thought it was a Monte Carlo SS when it was a Buick Regal, because the Buick Regal was almost twice as fast as a Monte Carlo SS. Anybody could beat a Monte Carlo SS. A bicycle could beat a Monte Carlo SS. But the Buick Regal was a whole different thing. And why do I bring all that up? I know nothing about hair curlers. I know nothing about a curling iron. I barely know the difference between a curling iron and a flat iron, or those little wavy iron things. Some of my daughters and their friends will use those little wavy things they put in their hair and they crank it, and when they let go it looks like a crinkle fry. I don't know anything about those. I couldn't tell you a blow dryer from a blow torch most of the time. And I certainly couldn't tell you a good blow dryer from a cheap blow dryer. I don't know. And I don't care. What does that tell you? Here's what it tells you. The things that I care about, I recognize, and I recognize quickly. And I can distinguish the difference between one and the other, even if the difference is only so slight. The same thing is true in your mind. When you bring into your awareness knowledge of fine details of a specific thing. My sister is a wine connoisseur. She can taste wines and tell you where they come from in the country by their flavors. She can tell you if it's made by a famous bottler, probably who made it and what the substances are. And she knows the difference between a Cabernet and a... See, I don't even know the differences. I don't know more beyond that. Cabernet and a Chardonnay, are those different? I'm clueless. But for people who are experts in that area, people who have studied in that area, people who have given their intention and their attention to that area, those slight differences are drastic. I look at it and go, wine's wine, right? No, to someone who likes wine, that's a big difference. I couldn't tell you the difference. Once those things become part of your awareness, though, it's very easy to distinguish good from bad, the right road from the wrong road, the right seed from the wrong seed, a seed that's going to make money versus a seed that's going to lose money. Yes, remember we talked about time, talent, treasure, and attention? All of those are seeds that you've got to plant if you want to see them grow. And some of them you will plant and they will take longer to grow. Some of them you've got to plant and forget that you planted them because they're going to take so long to grow that if you focus on them growing, you will kill them in the process. You've got to move on and work on other things and then come back to them. On the other hand, you could have bamboo. Wouldn't we all like our finances to grow like bamboo, our education to grow like bamboo, our relationships to grow like bamboo? You plant the seed, you give it a couple of days, and come back and it's 12 feet tall. There are places where it's really, really wet where they say that you can watch the bamboo grow. If you look at it when you go to bed and you look at it when you get up in the morning, you can see the marked difference between the growth of the bamboo. That's pretty impressive. There aren't many things on earth that grow that fast. Rabbits, maybe. So if we apply the Green Buick theory to those seeds, then we realize we get more of what we focus on. Partly because our focus on it makes it happen faster. Our focus on it, our attention on it, seems to put more energy toward whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish. But our awareness of it allows us to focus on it. Let me give you an example of that. You might say, I want to get my master's degree by the end of this year. I got 6 months to get my master's degree. I want to have it before it's all over. And so you get busy about your master's degree, but you get a month and a half into it, and then you have a car accident. And so you kind of set the books aside. You don't go to class for a couple of weeks. You end up dropping a particular grade that was necessary, or a class that was necessary, or a course that was necessary to get your master's. And so you set that aside and you think, well, I'll come back after Christmas and I'll get my master's degree. And then January comes and the bills from Christmas and the travel from Christmas, and you still haven't got your car straightened out after that accident, and you're still trying to find another one, and your finances are tight, and now it's June and July and you still haven't got your master's degree. Let me ask you this. What changed for real between the moment that you said, I'm going to go get my master's degree, and you signed up for the classes, and a year later? Well, there were some circumstances in life, certainly. But what changed is the intention of your focus. Were you aware of all of these things coming about in your life? Yes, you knew they were going to come. You didn't know exactly what was going to come, but you knew that life is what happens while you're waiting on something else to happen. It always does. You can't stop life from happening. You can deal with life as it happens. And so part of the transition that we have to make as human beings is to look at the awareness that we have of the conditions of our life, take a little step back from them and go, okay, I need to realize that when I start this process, it's going to take so much of my time. I've got to be aware of all the tragedies that could come and ask myself honestly, will I still want to hang on to this? Do I really want my master's degree, even if adding that 5 hours of study every day is going to cause me to lose the ball somewhere else? When we start to apply those things, there's a factor called the quantum Zeno effect. In simplicity, it says that whatever you focus on, you get more of. You can prove that this way. Now that quantum Zeno effect is also a part of the reticular activating system. So when you set your sights on a dream or you set your sights on a goal, it will take you there. Here's how that same thing happens negatively. If you are water skiing and you think, I'm leaning too far to the right, I'm leaning too far to the right, I'm leaning too far to the right, oh my gosh, I can't get my balance, I'm leaning too far to the right, you're probably going to fall to the right. I'm leaning too far to the left, I'm leaning too far to the left, you're probably going to fall to the left. Why do you think when we teach driver's ed, we tell the students, do not look into the headlights of the oncoming car? Because you will hit it. Your brain will take you where you're focused. Hear that again. Your brain will take you where you're focused. If your focus is in the oncoming car, if your focus is I'm not going to be able to stop, if your focus is I've got to turn this corner right now, all of the things in your body will begin to react to that instruction from your brain, and they will do what your brain is telling it to do, even if the rest of you is going, no, that's not what I meant. The brain has this way of solving problems so fast. Think about this. When you stand up out of a chair, how many muscles do you instruct? Do you consciously think through the process of, well, I've got to move my knees, and I've got to move the ACL, and I've got to get the hips just right, and I've got to move my glutes, and I've got to use my abs, and we don't think about that kind of stuff. Once we've learned how to stand up, we just stand up. But our brain is firing off thousands, billions of neurons per second. And subconsciously, it's causing our heart to beat, and our eyes to blink, and our blood to course through our veins, and the muscles in our body to move all at the same time. The subconscious brain has power like you wouldn't believe. And once we bring something into our awareness, positive or negative, and we focus our attention on that thing, we have planted a seed. And just like the gestational process, unless you're a doctor, you can't look at a baby in the womb and go, yeah, it'll be ready at blah, blah, blah. It's not like a microwave where there's a timer. I mean, we have a pretty good idea. It's going to be 9 months. 36 weeks, I believe it is kind of the maximum amount of time. In that time frame, though, the baby's doing all kinds of things going on inside there. In your life, there are things like your education, your relationships, your career, your habits that are seeds. And there's all kinds of things going on inside there. There's all kinds of things taking place, taking root, changing. Some good and some bad. The last part of this chapter that I want to bring up to you is the Bouncing Betty. We mentioned Bouncing Betty before, but there are seeds that you're going to plant that are like a legacy. And remember what we said about the Bouncing Betty is that it never blows up when someone steps on it. It blows up after they've walked away. Hear me clear on this. There are habits that you have in your life right now that are bouncing betties for your children and your grandchildren. 401ks that have not been taken care of. Inheritances that have not been managed. Taxes that have not been paid. Bills that have not been paid. All of those things, alcoholism, abuse, sexual assault, sexual abuse. Those type of things take root in a family. They're seeds in a family, and they will outlive you. 100 times out of 100 times. If you don't get those things out of your life, they will outlive you. And you know what they won't do? They won't come hunting you down after you're gone. They will destroy everyone you care about as you leave. Just like the scout who steps on the Bouncing Betty and then walks away, and the Bouncing Betty pops up out of the ground and kills 100 people around him. The bad habits, the bad seeds, the bad intentions of your life are like a Bouncing Betty. Oh, you will become more aware of them. And you will begin to see them. In fact, what will happen most of the time is you'll see them in other people. You'll think of other people, wow, I'm glad I'm not like that. But you really are like that. In fact, it's the reason that you recognize it in other people because it's in you. The anger, the frustration, the yelling, the bickering, the bad money management, the too much drinking, the little drugs on the side, the not taking care of your business properly, the not doing your work while you're at work. All of those things are planting seeds. Your children are watching. Your children are catching on. Your friends are aware. And it probably annoys you about somebody else because you already do it. Now let's put all that together and bring it home. There are seeds in your life that you want to plant because there are shade trees that you want your children to sit under. I would love one day for my children to be able to gather under the big oak tree in our front yard, or to gather under a big pear tree or an apple tree somewhere and eat the fruit of that apple tree and enjoy the shade of that tree. But if I don't plant the seeds of an apple tree now, that tree won't exist when that time comes. If I don't plant the seeds of a retirement package now, that package won't exist when the time comes. If I don't take care of my health, there will never be a grandpa wedding. I will never get a chance to see my grandchildren married if I don't take care of my health now. Those are seeds that have to be planted today. When's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Right now. You've got to plant those seeds right now. Success will not hunt you down. Obstacles won't chase you if you're sitting still either. They don't care. You're already beat. But if you're going to chase after success in life, if you're going to be aggressively, intentionally aware of what opportunities you are pursuing for yourself and your family and your legacy, then obstacles will get in your way. It's a guarantee. Like the illustration I used for getting your master's degree in the next 6 months. Is it possible for someone who's willing to work hard and be diligent and dedicate their time and awareness to it? Yes. Is it probable that life is going to throw things at you to test your mettle, to see if you really want this? Absolutely guaranteed it will. The only question is, what are you going to do about it? So as we wrap up this chapter, there's some questions, the same questions that are on the screen if you're watching the video. As we've said before, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. You can start planting your orchard now. If you didn't plant it 20 years ago, start planting it now. Ask yourself this question. You can think in a physical sense or a metaphorical sense. What trees would you like your children to enjoy? Apple trees, pineapple trees, banana trees, pear trees, financial success trees, inheritance of an oil field trees, good name trees. I have a 17-year-old son who's taking over our DJ business. This week, he closed his first contract, collected the deposit, filled out the contract online, sent the booking invoices, sent the booking receipts when it was paid, negotiated the price, negotiated the time, negotiated the setup, negotiated the equipment. I didn't even go to the appointment. He wanted me to, and I told him no. And my 17-year-old was able to go from the beginning of the initiation of the sale all the way through the closed contract and invoice date at 17. The young man's an entrepreneur. Now, I've been training him in this business for 6 years, since he was 11 years old. I've been planting seeds in him of what good customer service looks like. I've been planting seeds in him of how to treat people, even absolute strangers. I've been planting seeds in him to remind him that even the party you're at is not your best client. It's the opportunity to impress the next client. And if you only cater to the crowd in front of you and you don't take care of the crowds that you want to serve later, this will be your last seed. That service is seed for the next tree. It's seed for the next harvest. It's seed for the next orchard. Do you run your business that way? Do you teach your children to run their business that way? What you focus on tends to grow. So what seeds of life are you focusing on now? What are you growing? Good habits? Bad habits? List 5 habits or traits that you want to see more of in your life. I'd like to be more diligent. I'd like to be more disciplined. I'd like to show more respect to strangers. There's nothing stopping you. It's all on you. Number 4, list 5 traits you would like to leave as a harvest for your family. You think about those things. I want my children to be entrepreneurs. I don't want to leave them a lot of money. I want to leave them the ability to gain wealth. I would be okay if I left them some money, but I don't want spoiled children. I don't want spoiled grandchildren. I want capable, empowered, authorized, powerful, influential children. To me, that's more important than a wad of cash. I want them to have the character that says, I don't care if there's $100,000 in the bank for me today. I know how to put $100,000 in the bank, and I will go do it. That's what I want to leave as a legacy. What bad habits are you aware of in others? And understand that you're probably aware of them in others because of the Green Buick theory. They're obvious in you as well. And if you see them in other people, then you probably have them in you, which means other people see them in you. And those, my friend, are seeds. My challenge for you today is really simple. Work through these questions. Make that list of 5 things. But I want you to be more aware of the things that you're already aware of. I want you to focus some attention on the trees that you want to leave as an orchard for your children. What legacy are you going to leave behind? It may not be $1 million. Maybe you can't even afford life insurance, or your health is so bad you can't get life insurance. But you can leave a legacy of character and integrity and honor and respect. And those are a dying orchard. That's my challenge for you today. Ask yourself, what orchard, what seeds will I plant for my children, and what will I leave behind for those that I care about most? My name is J Loren Norris, and you've been watching Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.